Well, it's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, the latest on the 2020 presidential election and elections around the 4 states.
It's about a gorgeous start as you could get, and not only that, November temperatures, we're going to cruise past our average high on the weather almanac, all the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And what goes better with politics than meditation? The KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts right now.
Thanks for joining us on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Election day is over, but Americans are still waiting to learn who their next president is. Into the early morning hours after millions cast their votes in person and by mail, there was no clear winner in the race between President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden. Each candidate scored a number of projected state victories, but many crucial battleground states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin remain question marks. Now, the president spoke from the White House saying an alleged fraud was taking place in the election. Biden also addressed supporters at his campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, saying he intends to win the election. Taking a look at the latest results in terms of the popular vote, Joe Biden leads President Trump by a little under 2 million votes. That's roughly 50% of the vote. But what matters is the Electoral College, and Biden currently leads with 238 electoral votes, with the president having 213. However, as you can see, several are still too close to call, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and whoever reaches 270 first wins the presidency. Well, there's a lot of races down the ballot for state and local officers, and we start in Kansas with the U.S. Senate race for outgoing Senator Pat Roberts' seat. Republican Congressman Roger Marshall defeated the Democratic State Senator Barbara Bollier, and this race was the most expensive race for U.S. Senate in state history. Well, Southeast Kansas native Jake LaTurner's looked for a ticket to Washington as he faced off with Topeka Mayor Michelle De La Isla for the 2nd Congressional District in Kansas. He got it done, defeating De La Isla. Celebrations were held last night in Galena, Kansas at the watch party for LaTurner. He took to the stage to address his supporters as fireworks went off in the background.
This is great. My family's been in Galena for over 7 generations. To get to experience this victory here tonight is a big deal. But I know the people throughout the entire 2nd Congressional District, and we are going to work hard every single day to represent the people of this district and represent their viewpoint in Washington, D.C.
LaTurner added that his first priority in Congress is to get started on his contract with Kansas plan. In Missouri, former state auditor Nicole Galloway challenged incumbent Governor Mike Parson. The Associated Press called the race for the incumbent governor Mike Parson. And Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe faced a challenge from Democrat Alyssa Kennedy, and Kehoe won it by more than 500,000 votes. Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt is seeking re-election as well, and he defeated the Democratic challenger Rich Finneran with about 59% of the vote. Vicki Hartzler looking to retain her seat in the House representing Missouri's 4th district, and this one will also remain in Republican hands. She beat Lindsey Simmons by more than 10,000 votes. Congressman Billy Long represented Missouri's 7th district since 2010, and it looks like he'll get another 2 years in Congress. Long easily beat his Democratic challenger, Teresa Monsini. Voters also decided on a couple of constitutional amendments. In Missouri, Amendment 1 would impose 2-term limits on the state's lieutenant governor, attorney general, auditor, and secretary of state, and currently no leads with about 1 million more votes. Several sheriff's races also on the ballot yesterday, and that included a contentious race for Neosho County Sheriff in Kansas as well. Under Sheriff Greg Taylor handily wins over his Democratic challenger Kelly Stanley, and that was in Neosho County. Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe is running for re-election. Last night he defended his ticket from Democratic challenger Abby Broyles. U.S. congressional member Markwayne Mullin faced a challenge. Congressman Mullin easily defeated Danielle Lanier with more than 216,000 votes. And in Ottawa County elects a new sheriff. Democrat David Dean unseats Jeremy Floyd by more than 2,000 votes. Dean has more than 20 years in law enforcement experience with the Miami Police Department and served in the armed forces. He spoke with us last night after hearing he had won the election.
You know, I'm feeling good. I want to thank everybody that supported me, that's backed me. This has been a long few months, and it's been stressful, and I'm ready to get to work.
Sheriff Jeremy Floyd sent us his reaction to the results. He says, "The people have spoken and I respect their decision as a whole. Having the choice is what makes our country the greatest place on earth. I congratulate and wish David Dean the best of luck." Dean will take office in January. In other news, a 1-year-old Carthage boy is dead after he was run over in a driveway Monday afternoon. According to the Highway Patrol crash report, the child was run over after being under a car driven by a 19-year-old woman. And a 14-year-old Joplin teen who had been missing for more than a month is found safe. Leora Hardy was reported missing on September 17th from Joplin. Police say yesterday Hardy turned herself in to a law enforcement agency in Wisconsin, and they're working with police in Wisconsin to get her back home to Joplin.
So for us, as this was dragging on, we had great concern, and investigators in this case put in thousands of hours, and we had the help of numerous law enforcement agencies and organizations, and the public, from sharing social media to news agencies covering her story. There was a lot of information put out on this case, and a lot of work went into it, and so we're just so glad that we had such a successful resolution to it.
JPD says the investigation into her disappearance will continue. Well, scientists say a huge asteroid floating around our solar system could be worth more than the collective economies of our entire planet. Scientists think asteroid 16 Psyche is a collection of metals, mostly iron and nickel, and the sheer size of it, well, it's about the size of Massachusetts. They speculate it's worth $10 quintillion. I don't even know how much that is. Scientists think Psyche could have been the core of what was once a planet, and they plan to send up an unmanned probe to study its composition.
Oh, I think we need to have people on it. Let's get to it.
There we go. There's 10 quintillion.
That's what
right
10
there.
quintillion looks like?
That's
Wow.
evidently.
How many electoral points is an asteroid?
I was told it would not be math.
That was a lot of zeros. That's beyond
You
ours.
were warned.
I didn't go to asteroid school, Jesse.
You were
Okay,
warned.
so is this the same asteroid that's coming really close to us? Or that went by really close to us, Michael?
Say
You're
what?
a space expert here.
I know what you're talking about. I think that was a separate one.
That was a different
If
one?
I'm not
Okay.
That's not that one.
This one,
Yeah.
we want to get close enough so we can send up a certain 2 individuals, not to save us, but to start a mining operation.
Erwin, you got a laptop with you. Just find out how much Bitcoin that is.
It's an economic stimulus package in
Yeah.
itself.
I'm loving it. I
literally.
think
Everything's
the 14
solved
is
just
coming
like
out.
that.
Jeez.
Gorgeous start outside of Television City. Check out the flag right there, an indicator of how windy it's going to be today. Not breezy, it's going to be straight windy. Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin. We've been at 56 degrees all morning long, and that's not a wind gust. That's sustained at 20 miles per hour. 52 in Pittsburgh, 53 in Monette, and let's go 54 in Parsons. Officially, sunrise over Joplin was at 6:46. That's why I love when we do get to set those clocks back. We return with a gorgeous look from our sky cameras right there, and already up into the 60s by the time we get to the 9 o'clock hour. Big change from yesterday, little intrusion of some cloud cover on either side, but we're still going to see peaks of sunshine before the clouds really increase for the afternoon hours as the jet stream has really flattened out. No longer that big trough that we had that dug down from Canada and fed us those cooler temperatures. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a nice little warming trend, kind of begins with us, stretches all the way down to the southeast in the mid-Atlantic. So we're back up into the 70s today, going to be absolutely gorgeous. And remember, that cloud cover does a wonderful job trapping in our morning heat, and that's why we're going to wake up tomorrow back into the 50s. You don't have to worry about those freeze warnings that we had on Monday and Tuesday. Those things are distant past by now. And by the time Thursday morning does roll around, watch the clouds just push off to the east right there. And so there's going to be a whole lot of sunshine on Thursday and really carry that into Friday. We are in need of some rain. We're not going to pick it up to the end of the weekend, but then we actually do have about 3 consecutive days with thunderstorm activity, and that indicator right there, a little cold front going to push through the middle of next week. Tanya and Jesse.
All right, so Jesse, you're familiar with like C3PO and R2D2, right?
Yes.
All right, well, Disney's at it again, but this time they're looking to make a more lifelike human robot.
Oh my goodness.
I'll show you.
Oh boy. All right, we'll have that. Plus an update on Wisconsin, 20,000 votes. That's what separates Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump. You're watching KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll have politics, C3PO, and meditation after this.
There's a new tool to help track any potential adverse effects of COVID-19 vaccine once one becomes available in the U.S. Mandy Gaither has more.
As the race for a COVID-19 vaccine continues,
FDA will not authorize or approve any COVID-19 vaccine before it has met the agency's rigorous expectations for safety and effectiveness.
government officials are hoping to put minds at ease when it comes to safety. Part of that includes a new tool. It's called vSafe, a new smartphone-based active surveillance program for COVID-19, a way for the CDC to monitor vaccine recipients for any health problems through text messages and online surveys in the first week after a person receives the vaccine, and then weekly thereafter for 6 weeks, according to the agency's website. If any adverse events are reported, the program will submit a report to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. During the early phase of distributing a COVID-19 vaccine, initial doses may be given to specific groups such as healthcare personnel and other essential workers, so they'll likely be the first to use vSafe. While some health experts say it's important to have other methods besides cell phones for reporting any vaccine health problems, there are advantages as well, including being able to get a lot of data quickly. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The CDC's website also lists 2 other ways to evaluate COVID-19 vaccine safety in real time: CDC's National Healthcare Safety Network, and then larger insurer and payer claims-based databases through the FDA. Well, Disney researchers are creating a humanoid robot with a lifelike gaze. But right now, well, it's looking pretty creepy. The project is a partnership. Oh my goodness, that is creepy. The project is a partnership with the California Institute of Technology and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. In a research paper, the group says getting robot eyes to react like biological ones is a multi-step process. The robot has to perceive people and their actions, choose a gaze to respond, and then execute the look. Can we give it skin?
It wouldn't be looking at me, I'd be running.
Can we give it skin or a mask?
Jesse
or
just said that does
something?
not look relaxing.
No,
I mean, I know we're working on the eyes, but yes, I feel like it's already Friday the 13th.
That's some scary stuff, man.
No, that's not what we need this morning. That's so scary. That's Zach.
What are we doing to Dodge?
What's up, Zach?
It was Zach the whole time.
Yes, no, we
You're
gave
much
it
better
skin.
looking, dude. You're
You
much better
succeeded.
looking
There
than the
we go.
robot.
I had a feeling.
Disney succeeded.
Poor
and they
Dodge.
made
I
a
can't believe we
Zach
just bust him
Dodge
like
lookalike.
that. Dodge,
That's
I will pick you up when you get
Hey,
here,
just
my
a
man.
disclaimer, that is not, those are not the same people, Zach and
I don't
this
know.
robot.
I'll start
They're
that
not.
conspiracy
I
theory
promise
right there. Zach Dodge, cyborg. All right, live look outside of Television City, and as far as our Freeman Health System sky camera goes, 76 or 56 has been our magical number. 76, a distinct possibility here by the time we get to the afternoon hour. We have had wind gusts close to 25 miles per hour, just barreling in from the south, and because our air mass is dry, our wind is high, our temperature is way above normal. We've got an elevated fire risk for this afternoon. Once again, please avoid any outdoor burning. 55 in Carthage, let's go 53 in Chanute. And Miami, we're right in there at 54. The high pressure system that brought us all the blue sky and sunshine on Monday and Tuesday has now moved east of the Mississippi. And so that's going to bring us just some additional cloud cover. All the way up into the 90s, or all the way up into the 60s. What in the world? The whole Zach Dodge thing threw me off. all the way up into the 60s here. Look at the icons. I just went ahead and changed those. We're going to get some peaks of sunshine, but it's really going to be the wind that dominates the bus stop forecast. Now, as far as our national perspective goes, you'll notice a split jet stream, and with the ridge that comes right through us up to the Great Lakes, that's going to be way above normal temperatures for November, especially here in the 4 states. As a matter of fact, we're going to run about a 7-8 day consecutive span of 70-degree weather that we have not experienced specifically this time of year all the way back since 2005. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. This morning on both the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, while Election day is in the rearview mirror, still no word on who won the White House. Let's begin with our morning poll question. You go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. What do you think of the presidential election results so far? 82% of you say it has you worried, compared to only 12% that say you're confident and 6% indicate indifferent. Once again, polls open all morning. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Now let's transition over to the Facebook page and pick our comments up with Christine Shaw, who says, I think a lot of dead people are voting and a lot of cheating gotten away with. No other way Biden could get the numbers he has. Sherry Daly says, totally ashamed of our incompetent media. She says, how sad. Michael Christopher, Friday at the earliest, we'll know who won. Maybe even till next Tuesday. And Holly Blaze Maxwell says, this is like watching the Super Bowl. Go Trump. Either way, I will go about my day and love others. Special guest in the studio. Not the dude I'm pitching it to. The other dude is what?
Well, I'm joined by Dr. Will DeHuy. Doc, you are a political science professor. You're qualified to answer these questions about this because people are concerned, right?
Of course.
I mean, their candidate, it's neck and neck presidential-wise.
Yes.
And so when we look at the votes that are left, there are a lot of votes left, right? Pennsylvania, for example, 2 million plus votes still to be counted. Now, does the type of vote that those are, right, if those are absentee/mail-in or if those are in-person votes, is there a partisan component to that might be able to give us some foresight into what those results look like?
I think so. I think, and when you reference the partisan component, the idea would be those people who vote, say, early or do so via absentee ballot or mail-in maybe have different partisan attitudes than those who would do face-to-face. So the idea would be if the mix, right, of votes to be counted would be something like in-person versus early, if the numbers of early votes are, if you will, larger relative to in-person, then you would maybe suggest that there would be a slight advantage to Biden. Conversely, if it were the other way, if it were in person as slightly more relative to early, then I think there's probably a partisan advantage for President Trump. And that was something that was kind of discussed last night, in particular with Pennsylvania, kind of figuring out the relative balance, right, of those different types of votes and how it plays out for both Biden and Trump.
Well, a point you made was, frankly, it's very eye-opening, right? I mean, not only what type of votes are those, but when can the state begin to count those, right? Pennsylvania can't begin counting those until those mail-in ballots until yesterday. So that indicates it in Pennsylvania, but that might not be the case in other states.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of variation across states, such that when states decide to count and what types of ballots they will count and when they do so varies quite a bit. So, and there's actually some even within state variation at the level of the county.
Right.
So I think the worry that your viewers have about the outcome, I can see why, because they want kind of a determinate decision.
Right.
But unfortunately, kind of the nature of our electoral process, because it's both state and federal, creates some delays, particularly when you have something like a pandemic that transforms how people vote from, say, in-person to early or some form of mail-in voting.
Well, you know, we look at the results right now, right? In Wisconsin, we've been watching those results come in more and more. Former Vice President Biden leading by, I think it might be less than a point right now, with 95% of the vote in from Wisconsin. So we're continuing to monitor that. I want to continue this conversation with you, but really quickly, in 30 seconds, what do you think we should be looking for in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania specifically? And is there a difference in that?
You know, I think right now it looks like, depending again on that mix, I would say there's maybe a potential benefit for Trump in Pennsylvania. Michigan, same thing. Wisconsin may, in fact, lean towards Biden. So those were some states, in particular Pennsylvania and Michigan, that Biden needed to be more competitive in order to kind of get to 270. So that mix may in fact play out in favor of President Trump in those two states, whereas in Wisconsin for Biden.
Right. Well, in Michigan, for example, I believe I have it here. 24,000 people registered to vote yesterday in the state of Michigan. So there's a lot to be counted.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. We're going to continue to have conversations with Doc here, and we're going to also be doing some meditation because we all could just really use it. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 after this.
A Joplin teen who was missing for more than a month is found safe. KOAM's Zach Dodge has the latest.
Many in the area can let out a sigh of relief after 14-year-old Leora Hardy is found safe in Wisconsin. Hardy was first reported missing on September 17th from the area of D and North Wall Street in Joplin. The FBI and National Center for Missing and Exploited Children assisted in the search. Hardy reportedly turned herself in to a law enforcement agency in Wisconsin yesterday and is in good health.
The investigation doesn't just stop just because she was found. It's trying to determine, okay, did she do this on her own? Did she run away? Was this an enticement case? All these different avenues. Investigators, that's part of the job of our detective, is to try to determine the exact circumstances on her disappearance, and hopefully we'll get those answers and be able to figure out exactly how this case should proceed.
JPD is currently working with police in Wisconsin to bring Hardy back home to Joplin. Reporting in Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
The criminal investigation into Leora's disappearance is still underway. It's time now to honor today's four-state hero, Purple Heart recipient James Howie, a lieutenant in the United States Air Force. He served stateside from 1942 to 1944, where he gave his life when his plane crashed over Stillwater, Oklahoma. Native of Parsons, Kansas, we salute you, James Howie, our four-state hero. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Election day is over, but Americans are still waiting to learn who their next president is. Into the early morning hours after millions cast their votes in person and by mail, there was no clear winner in the race between President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden. Each candidate scored a number of projected state victories, but many crucial battleground states like Pennsylvania remain question marks. And the president spoke from the White House saying an alleged fraud was taking place in the election. Biden also addressed supporters at his campaign headquarters, saying he intends to win the election. Let's take a look at the latest results in terms of the popular vote. Joe Biden is leading President Trump by a little under 2 million votes. That's roughly 50% of the vote. But what matters is the Electoral College. Now, Biden currently leads with 238 electoral votes, with the president having 213. However, as you can see, several are still too close to call, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Whoever reaches 270 first wins the presidency. A number of local sheriff's races were also on the ballots, and we're going to start in Crawford County, Kansas. The incumbent, Danny Smith, will remain sheriff after beating Republican J.J. Carlinger. Bill Martin, the Republican incumbent from Bourbon County, wins his race. Now, Martin received 2,000 more votes than the Democratic candidate Mike Fagans. And in Bourbon County, voters are saying yes to a 1% sales tax. It would fund maintenance and construction of roads in the county. In Cherokee County, voters decided on the continuation of sales tax revenue of 0.5% to finance ambulance services and maintain county buildings. This measure passes by more than 4,000 votes. Hurricane Eta, one of the most powerful storms to hit Central America in years, has begun wreaking havoc on Honduras, with rivers bursting their banks, flooding towns and cities on the Caribbean coast, and landslides on roads. The hurricane began affecting neighboring Nicaragua on Tuesday in an impoverished region of its Caribbean coast, battering homes and infrastructure.
The scary thing about Eta, Tanya, is it's not done yet. Give you an idea of where it sits over Nicaragua right now. But the important thing is after it's done there and turns into a low pressure system, wants to gain speed, become tropical storm force again, head toward Cuba, and after it crosses Cuba, that's right, make its way towards South Florida. So I'm not going to be surprised if by Monday of next week we don't see tropical storm warnings all along the Florida coast. Changes in the contiguous 48 include the jet stream, which is now very, very flat as it stretches from west to east for the most part. I tell you, my jacket, my microphone, they have not cooperated one bit this week. I'm going sans jacket now, folks. How about that? Casual, Doc, this is how we do it. We're just like, I got the professor over there looking at me. I'm like, it's the day after elections, casual Wednesday, let's do it. High pressure system has moved east of the Mississippi right now, and the low pressure that we see indicated in the darker colors, not going to be able to really penetrate east of Wichita. Now, at the same point in time, this high pressure that was over us on Monday, that's why we had a whole bunch of sunshine and blue sky for 2 consecutive days. So we will see the intrusion of just a little cloud cover moving in from the west, but very, very dry. Don't need to worry about this dropping any rain, even though by the time we get to the weekend, we're going to want a little bit of rain. Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin, 56 degrees. Thermometer really hasn't moved too much. The wind, it has increased. It is blustery as get out right now as it barrels in from the south, anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting from 25 to 30 miles per hour, but also providing us very mild temperatures on this Wednesday morning. 54 in Miami, 53 in Nevada. Let's go 51 in Independence. Up into the mid-70s later on today, and we'll be able to carry that trend all the way into the weekend. This is what I was talking about on Sunday and Monday. We're going to need to start picking up some rain right there, and then a little bit of a cold front dropping in between Monday and Tuesday. Back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll asking what do you think of the presidential election results so far. We'll begin with the Insta poll where 83% of you say that you are worried. You can log on to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote and let us know what you think. Transition over to our Facebook comments where Rick Lisa Hartsfeld says the Democrats have been saying for a long time they were going to muck up vote counting. I guess they weren't lying. Karen Schofield says every vote should be counted. Projecting winners is a horrible practice and the news media should stop doing that. And Liz Chamberlain says, nice to wake up to the president delegitimizing the voice of the people. All votes are to be counted as it always has been. Honestly, I'm flabbergasted at our president. Looks like USPS ignored federal courts anyway, so we're all getting cheated. Time now to turn it over to Jesse in Studio K.
Well, this morning we are fortunate enough to be joined by a true pro. Doctor, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Political science professor from Missouri Southern. I feel like you're the appropriate person to have here, Doc. So, I mean, when we talk about the presidential race, it can be exhausting. I want to zero in on Senate races now, which, there was one in Kansas.
Yes, so let's see, the election between Marshall and Boyer.
Right. So what should we, tell me where to go. Tell me why, why we're looking at a result like this.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, historically, to have Marshall, the Republican, win is something, kind of we would predict, but the degree to which Boyer was competitive and really, I think, had the ability to generate support behind, a national, Democratic elected official is very, very interesting. It also is true that Kansas has a history of electing Democratic officials, for statewide races. So this is something to kind of maybe, pay attention to in the sense that a more moderate Democratic, candidate could, in fact, get significant support in a state that tends to be, fairly conservative and Republican.
Right, well, we saw that with Governor Kelly being elected.
Yes.
So, is Kansas heading in that direction? Does it stop at a certain point? What do you sort of see in terms of voting behavior?
Well, I would probably think that Kansas will stay fairly, Republican and conservative, which matches well with what we're seeing here on the map.
Right.
But I think it is true also that Kansas has kind of a history of at least being committed to some democratic policy ideas, like, for example, public funding of education, et cetera, that could, over time, maybe lead to more democratic support. And then, of course, in the northeast part of the state, as we're seeing here, you've got counties and voters who, in fact, have that democratic sensibility. So,
is there another Senate race that sticks out to you?
I think another one would be in Colorado. If we have the
Mr. Hickenlooper.
Yes, the
former mayor of Denver.
Yes, a person who kind of essentially takes over, right? And so it's a flip, right, for the Democrats in that sense.
And why does that happen? You know, I think now people look at a place like Colorado, and
Sure.
I think people really, you know, they might not be questioning a result like this. But is that just because of such a change of the identity of the state in the last 15 years?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's very much become more ideologically liberal and thus, right, kind of more for partisan purposes democratic.
Right.
I mean, Colorado also has, right, some within state policy, right, changes, right, that I think kind of mirror, right, its democratic sensibilities. I also think, right, that population centers like, you know, in Denver, et cetera, right, are growing. So that for the Democrats to gain a seat, right, in the Senate kind of benefits them, at least going forward, depending on, you know, what happens with the U.S. president.
But it's still even in the Senate. There's
Right. There hasn't really been any major shift such that one party would be benefited versus another. So, but I just want to make sure that we were also kind of getting the opportunity to talk about the Senate, because that's something that's also, you know, up for re-election this year.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will continue our conversation about this election, and we're going to do some meditation, actually, because I don't know about you, but we just need a moment to breathe. So we'll be back with a moment to breathe on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. If you've been watching the election, I hope you're doing okay, you know, because it can absolutely be stressful and it can absolutely be anxiety inducing. And that's why this morning we've brought Liz Stacia Ross with us from Eclectic Soul Studio, and I want to talk to you about some strategies for just taking a moment to breathe, especially today and throughout the week and frankly just in life. So what do you got for us?
Okay, great. Well, I always encourage people to start off with a focus.
Okay.
A lot of times people have trouble clearing their mind. You don't have to completely clear your mind from all the chitter chatter, but having a focus word is super helpful. So,
like what?
For instance, today, well, set an intention for whatever your intention is. So today we're discussing calmness. So our focus word might be calm, tranquility, peacefulness. Pick a word. So we'll go with the word calm. Okay. So whenever you have another thought pops into your mind, like, oh, thinking about something you have to do later, then you can come back to the word calm, okay?
Okay.
Focus on the word calm. Now, the next step is we want to bring that feeling into our body, okay? So how do we actually feel calm?
Right.
Right? So we need to try to get out of our head and step into our bodies like we've discussed before. So we're bringing our conscious mind or our awareness, our mindfulness into our body.
Okay, so owning it instead of trying to push it away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because we spend so much time in our heads. We need to get into our body. So I want to take a few deep breaths. That's what I typically do for meditation, is taking a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay. Usually. Okay, so do that 3 times. So in. If you want to, you go ahead and make a sigh. You can make an ah sound. What I really like to focus on is our heart space. So that would entail to actually to have the feeling of calm, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but to step in our heart space, open our heart chakra.
Right.
You need to actually feel your heart, okay? Like physically feel your chest area, okay? So that'll help you kind of step into that.
Yeah.
And thinking of the word calm, you set your intention for, and you hopefully will be able to produce that feeling of calm, okay?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, if it's okay, we're going to have you stick around here. And on Facebook, I would like to just do a meditation session. So anyone who is having a stressful morning, you know, is watching the election, maybe is just having a tough time at work, is that okay? Can we have you join us for
Absolutely,
that?
yes.
All right. Join us on Facebook, but we'll be right back here on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We are fortunate enough to be joined by somebody who frankly understands, you know, this just the art of the democratic process better than anybody. So, Doc, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us about this.
Thank you for the chance.
I want to talk about what we should be looking for today. You know, we're watching these results come in from the state of Wisconsin right now. They're getting their final ballots in, and then we're watching Michigan and Pennsylvania get I mean, what are you looking for, and what should people be looking for so they don't have to worry about stuff that might just be noise?
Oh, okay. Well, essentially, I mean, it's a kind of a waiting game, but I think for me, kind of professionally, what I'd be waiting for is to look at the results from Pennsylvania. In particular, because of that mix that we talked about different vote types. Pennsylvania could go for Trump or Biden. I'd also be kind of looking at Michigan. I think Wisconsin is kind of looking more closely for Biden, but that could obviously change. I think hopefully today, right, we'll get some resolution to the counting, which I think is probably a source of concern and worry for some, is that because it's not a clear, open process in the sense of being able to see people count votes, to know that it's occurring kind of delays what we all want as kind of the conclusion to it. So that's kind of where I've been looking at, just looking at these states that are still left out, or left open, excuse me. And then also looking at the Senate and seeing if some of those races flip or otherwise change as a function of these additional votes that are being counted.
When you see the numbers that you're seeing, what does this kind of a turnout tell you about the nature of this election? I mean, is that does it indicate something about where we're heading as a country or where we are?
I think people are highly motivated, right, for a variety of reasons. One of the things that people who study kind of voting turnout have kind of bemoaned is, at least in a historical sense, the relative low levels of U.S. political participation, especially in presidential elections. And so while we don't have official turnout counts now, my kind of thinking is that turnout in this presidential election will be kind of historically significant. And I think it's probably a function of the environment. You have a pandemic, you have social unrest, you have very different candidates, both of whom are kind of highly motivating for the people that support them. And so, while I know that many of us are worried about the outcome of the election and ultimately what that would mean, the other thing to maybe keep in mind is that, I mean, people are voting. People are participating, right? I mean, they're really trying to make their interests known. And so in that sense, a small d-sense democracy is kind of thriving, which is kind of an optimistic way to think about it.
It's interesting to think about the fact that, the pandemic and all these, social unrest, whatever the issue or the topic you might point to, these all contribute to a higher turnout.
I think because people are much more aware than they otherwise would be. They're thinking about the consequences, of their choice for purposes of questions that really affect their everyday lives. I mean, so how am I going to protect myself if I'm worried about the pandemic? How do we address, say, racial inequality and reactions to it? So I think the environment is, I guess to say it, is motivating, but I think it's also one that's kind of tumultuous and difficult. And so I think people want to get some kind of political resolution to those things that prove to be difficult in their own lives.
Well, Dr. Delahanty, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. As you were saying that, I've got results from 2016 up on my screen, and I mean the amount of people voting in this election compared is night and day. So we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We'll have all of our conversations with him on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. We'll be right back on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Election day is over, but Americans are still waiting to learn who their next president is. Both President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden scored a number of projected state victories, but many crucial states, battleground states like Pennsylvania, remain question marks. In Georgia, CBS News has called the race for Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was running unopposed after the Democratic candidate dropped out because of personal reasons. Taylor Greene, known as a QAnon supporter, tried to distance herself from the conspiracy theory network once she started running. Americans went to the polls Tuesday in the shadow of the coronavirus pandemic. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide topped 47 million. The reported global death toll is more than 1.2 million. Check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Previous two mornings this week, a little cloudy intrusion, but tell you what, not going to slow
slow us down warmth-wise if we're still going to make it up Ian to the 70s. We're going to make it up Ian to the 70s. Also, too, remember, we have not experienced a November span of this warmth since 2005. Get outside and enjoy it.
Well, a disaster averted in the Netherlands when a runaway elevated train crashes through the barrier onto a whale sculpture. Well, you got to see this. Sculpture stopped the train from falling 30 feet off its platform. It was installed 20 years ago and is named Saved by the Whale's Tail. Thankfully, there were no passengers on board, but the train was helmed by an operator. He was unharmed in the incident and now has a whale of a tale to tell.
That's crazy.
I don't know what it's an analogy for, but I'll take it. I'm glad that everything's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was scary. He's lucky he's okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, again, Dr. Delhanty, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this morning. We'll have our conversation with him on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, on our morning show page. And thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning.
Appreciate you, Doc. Be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.